check, radio check. Alright, cool. Lovely. 160p. Cool. Welcome everyone to what is House of Racing, Season 4, Round 2, Formula 1. It's time for Imola, the Imola Romagna Grand Prix. Well, we're going to get into short qualifying to start us off with, but the Grand Prix weekend has now gotten underway, so should be good. Just loading into it now, but start off slow and get into it. 18 minutes worth of qualifying action ahead. It's more just a matter of time before drivers start to head outwards. Blada with a head pat. Hello, hello. So, like we said before, 18 minutes worth of action. We wait patiently for drivers to come out. It doesn't look like we're waiting very long, but should do some introductions to start us off with, now that some people will be coming into the stream. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is JPM13, but you can call me Helix or Jamie, doesn't really bother me too much. And welcome back. It is, yeah, like I said before, House of Racing, Formula 1. It is round 2 here for Imola. So it should be a good Grand Prix ahead. Like we said, we're already getting into qualifying, so nice and fast start before things start to heat up much quicker. Thank you for the 5 viewers now getting into it. So let's see who's now out on an outlap. You have Gabby and the Aston Martin going left and right, trying to quickly get some heat into those tyres, going right over those curbs and just bumping over that sausage curb, trying to get the maximum out of it. Not too bad from the Aston. Continuing further down, you also have the Ferrari of Mick Lenny also on an outlap. All of these guys, all of the drivers out on track right now will be on an outlap. And for the first time here in Season 4, K1 will be finally driving out. KA70M will have his first time out here in Season 4, so making his debut for this season. Well, he's raced in previous seasons, but as in for this season, it's his debut. Anyway, intermediate's being run on Illyrian, or Albo, as he is also called. We'll try and get some details on the board for you lovely people now. As you can see, you have the only person on intermediates being Albo, clearly just trying to save a set of softs and also just trying to tune himself into the track. It's actually not that bad of an idea. Alright, anyway, around the final corner, the Aston Martin will be the first one on a fast lap. Gabby, well and truly over it now, so 8th gear, pedal to the metal, flat to the floor. What can the racing green car do into this first corner, or into the first and second? It's a chicane. DRS closes, does well on the second and third. It's really just a matter of momentum and all that mechanical grip that Formula 1 has in that suspension. Does well into the next couple of corners, taps the brakes going into the next, gets a bit squirmy but not too bad either way. Back up the hill, 24.253 as your baseline time in the first sector. Not too bad. Well, apparently we have some guy in general being a bit weird. Either way, currently in the Aston Martin, now going downhill in the second sector, 42 seconds on his current time as he now taps the brake going back up. Looks like he full throttled it through the entire area. You get enough mechanical grip in those cars to do so. 50.509 in the second sector as he now goes through what are quite tight corners for a chicane, but if you get it perfect, you'll see yourself gaining a lot of time, and if you get it wrong, you can see yourself losing a lot of time. It's really just about getting it down to the quite perfect line and getting the precision correct. Either way, this precision has been very easy for the Aston Martin. He's kept it clean through it all, and he'll set a lap time of 1:15.935, and that is your baseline time. The Haas right behind him of Jono, 1:15.381, well and truly smashing it out compared to Gabby. McLenny will now go P2 in the Ferrari with a 15.795. What about the Red Bull, who seems to be now going on a fast lap? So what about the Williams? I think that's Sir Nikolai, so it's Wave Dre who will be next. Wave Dre now starts his fast lap, must have invalidated because he's got one lap old soft compounds. A man that now goes fastest overall is the teammate to Gabby in the Aston Martin with a 1:15.234. Looks like Chesney Reese in the Alfa Romeo, 1:15.617. Very solid times on the board from him. The Haas currently going up the hill at the moment. He'll be looking to try and gain on his time. Charldinho with a 1:15.049. Your current championship leader at the moment, one in Australia, could come back-to-back winners if he wins here in Imola. Let's continue down the track. You have K1 making his debut here in Season 4. Well, as in for this season alone. If you can consider other seasons, he debuted well and truly back in Season 1. He is an OG of the server. Let's go to other drivers out on track. DRL Lancer is still in the pit lane. Looks like... who was I missing out? It looks like Dylan Ark went with the 15076 P2 just behind Charldinho. Very close margins actually at the moment. 15 flats already. Quite competitive here in Formula 1. What can Marinov set on the board? It's a 15137. Sees himself P3 right ahead of Chimp in P4. Continue further back down. See where we can try and find a bit more action. Well, we'll see where we can find some action. It's the man of action himself. It's K1. Just coming around the final couple of corners. It does not invalidate. It does well on his first run out. See what he can do. Currently in P12, moves up to P5, 1:15.264, and very competitive time from the AlphaTauri. Has to be happy with that. Continuing back down, you have the teammate to K1, Windex Bottlecap, will be looking for an opportunity, 24.4 as he goes through the second sector, just going up the hill now. Levels back out once you reach the peak, and then eventually going into the chicanes 1 and 2 curbs. Does a fantastic job on that occasion. The AlphaTauri now continuing on, flat to the floor, ERS of use, and there's only one DRS zone, and that is on the pit straight, so it's all just main straight and momentum throughout majority of this track. Looks like a bit of lack of handling goes wide, and the AlphaTauri has invalidated. He'll see himself coming back into the pit lane now. Unfortunate for Windex Bottlecap. Both Mercedes now getting a time on the board. Illyrian on the intermediate, surprisingly, with a 19.396. So it's going to be interesting what he can set on the board once it is on soft compounds. And the teammate to Illyrian or Albo currently setting Tessa with a 1:31.300. Joshi currently in the Alpine P20. He's about to go on a fast lap. He's the only man on new compounds who is going to be starting a fast lap right about now. Just having a quick look to see any other Aston Martins who have set a lap time. What I can say is Gabby on 3-lap old soft compounds still has improved up to P6. Is this Alpine going to get his lap approved? No, he isn't. Is this and next lap worth of penalties? Unfortunately for Joshi, he'll have to back out of that. Keep ERS shut. It looks like he'll keep DRS shut as well. What about Wave Dre? He's done 3 laps, well, 2 laps now, going into his third, and he has invalidated on all of his runs so far. So the Williams really needs to put something together in just one big unanimous drive, really just one big lap without any white line crossings, and he can see himself actually setting one down. But you know what's not going to happen is the Williams doing that. Unfortunately, he's invalidated again, so he has to back out of that and look for another opportunity. Let's move back down. Is Joshi still invalidated? Yes, he is. Fortunately, he hasn't gone onto a new lap yet. Gabby's done well, though. Even on 3-lap old soft compounds, he's found the pace necessary to improve up to P6, so the Aston Martin will be happy with that. We have a couple people on outlaps. You have Chimp still on the same set of compounds he had before. You still have 10 minutes in this session, so plenty of time for people to improve. Gabby back into the pit lane now. Chesney Riz P8 for the time being. We'll see how that continues to evolve. So, let's go on board with someone who hasn't even set down a lap time. Let's go to Sir Nikolai, because he's just crossed the line and starts his fast lap. Let's go on board and do a lap with the Williams. Going into the first corner, brakes around the 50-meter mark, down to 4th gear. Carry all that momentum and that straight line speed that you carried with DRS into the next couple of corners. Does well on the momentum, up to 8th gear. Tap down 1, once again 2 there. Fantastic stuff through Villeneuve chicane. Then you'll move back up into the elevated hairpin. Locks the fronts a little bit, but overall isn't affected too badly. So now the Williams is flat to the floor, pedal to the metal, full throttle with no issues from traction, and now we'll continue on. Some people can take that flat, but you have to be very careful with how much downforce you actually are using. The Williams being tapping it down 2 gears, just downshifting to maximize it at the end of the day. So Nikolai back up the hill there. It looks like he flatted the last couple of corners, so he's doing a very good job at the moment. Continuing on now out of the exit of the chicane, just trying to maximize it. Astronomy says 1:15s. Yeah, indeed. The Formula 1 grid is definitely competitive this time round. It is on a whole different level, that's for sure. Minty Hazza in the Alfa Romeo goes P8 with a 15.502 on medium compounds. Have to be happy with that. And what can the Williams do? 15.056, and Sir Nikolai goes P2 in the Williams. Fantastic stuff. Wizzy Goat is back. Hello, Wizzy Boy. I don't see you, however, on the grid. I could be completely blind, but I think Wizzy Goat is not such a goat because he's not attending the Formula 1 grid. Oh no, maybe that's just me. Either way, the AlphaTauri of Windex Bottle Cap currently on a fast lap. He has no time on the board because of previous invalidations. Continuing on now through using all that momentum from that straight onto the chicane. Have a Ferrari stopping on track, making sure that the AlphaTauri can maximize everything out of the lap time, and does a fantastic job so far. Through Villeneuve chicane, makes sure to use all of the track necessary, and is going to get a 23.840 on the first lap. Well, on the first sector, really. Does a fantastic job either way. The AlphaTauri now flat to the floor as he continues up the hill before leveling out, tapping the brakes, and then moving back downhill. Very quick and very easy circuit to try and navigate through, but you have to be careful of track limits, because that is what it gets you. It's an easy track to navigate, but it becomes difficult once you encounter track limits. So easy to go over that white line and cost yourself a lap time that could have been a pole, or it could have been a top 5. Dude, low 114 should be what they should be getting. It's true, these guys are quite competitive. They should be aiming for 114s. You know what, they're not that far away, because these are their first runs. 7 minutes on the clock still. There's plenty of time for people to improve. Speaking of, the AlphaTauri of Windex Bottle Cap smashes it out of the park. A 114.503. Fantastic stuff from the AlphaTauri. Really showing what the pace should be here in Formula 1 and setting it down correctly. Let's move to Marinov in the Red Bull. He's currently on a fast lap and 3/10 up on his time. He currently has a 1:15.137, so he won't take pole, or at least provisional pole, but the Red Bull could see himself in P2 if he can get this lap time all together. Slow, says Wizzy Boy in the Twitch chat. Anyway, Marinov around the final corner, taking all that momentum from the 3/10 he gained in the second sector. He's going to get a 14.670 and well and truly P2, just over a tenth, well, a tenth and 67 hundredths slower. Either way, very solid lap time there, pretty much a tenth slower, and yeah, the Red Bull, I'm sure, will be very delighted with a lap time like that. What about Dylan? He's started his lap time. Let's move further down the grid, see if there's anyone currently on new tyres trying to push their heart out. 3/10 already up on his time is the Ferrari of Mick Lenny. Looks like Joshy moved up to P10 with a 15.479. Has to be happy with that. Still looking at the Ferrari though, Mick Lenny up the hill, just leveling out now. Once again, it's flat to the floor, no issues with throttle, unlike other divisions of racing that could be a bit more competitive but are slower overall. Carbon fiber on that rear wing, but you won't get to see it open until, well, the main straight. Zinc with a 14.408 in the McLaren is really starting to come alive. We saw him come alive in qualifying last time out in Australia, and that is one hell of a lap time. DRL Lancer once again struggling. He is on the medium compound, so we'll see how he does. And Mick Lenny goes P7 with a 15.095. Have a look at that. Fantastic lap time. We thought Windex Bottle Cap's lap was fast. The McLaren just really smashed that out of the park. What about JSTM? He's currently on a fast lap. The teammate to Zinc in the McLaren. What can he do? He's coming up on the final couple of corners, right over the curb, riding it as hard as he can to gain the maximum out of it. Dylan in the Haas goes a 14.915. The McLaren goes even faster. 2/10 improvements. It's a McLaren 1-2 well and truly, ladies and gentlemen. It's a 1:14.253. Fantastic stuff from the McLaren to be able to manage that. Crazy good. I mean, yeah, whole different level, that's for sure. Ace Wizzy Boy says that was near my lap. Don't get cheeky now, Wizzy Boy. Don't get cheeky now. How'd it go in the race? Did you end up winning, Wizzy? I can't recall. Did you end up winning that race? Oh wait, no, you lost. Oh, that's a shame. Anyway, let's continue through the gaps of drivers C. Anyway, the Alpine going slow, 14 seconds off his time. He's just looked like he's warming up potentially for another fast lap, but a lot of these guys will be coming back into the pit lane before quickly switching on to new tyres. Someone who is on new tyres and on an out lap, same joined by Jono, but he's coming back into the pit lane anyway, will be Minty Hazza in the Alfa Romeo. Astronomy says, bro's ego after his lap. LMAO, I can't stop thinking about it. Hey, it was a very good lap, Wizzy, I can't lie. It's just a shame that your race pace couldn't match up to it. So, you know, maybe that's something to think about. Anyway, the Alfa Romeo of Minty has now going downhill, just trying to make the absolute maximum of it. A 4-leaf clover to represent luck here in Italy. The hometown of Alfa Romeo, the same as the Scuderia Ferrari. Anyway, The Alfa Romeo around the final corner, flat to the floor, pedal to the metal, across the line, and DRS is now fully active as he gets what most likely would be his final lap here for quali. Only one qualifying session. It's not like other leagues where there's 3. It's just quick, fast-paced, and fun, and that is what it's all about here in House of Racing. Competitive racing with clean, fair drivers. That is what it's all about, and you can see Alfa Romeo really showing what that competitiveness is shown in. This looks like it's going to be a 24.137, improves by 0.05 of a second. Currently in P14, see if he can upgrade himself into a higher level, at least for time. Just a shame your comms suck then, isn't it? Yeah, it's true. It does suck, it's okay. Anyway, Minty has it currently in the second sector, looking to go back up the hill. Downshifts down to 4th gear, but now continuing back up the gears with these V6 hybrid engines. 4/10 up on his time. Looks like he's gone purple in the first. Purple in the second. Now, in the third sector, looks like he's now going to continue on 7th and then 8th gear and just back down the hill now. Looking to try and maximize the most out of it. Braking very efficiently in that Alfa Romeo. One last time. Gets a nice bit of kick out of the rear, but keeps it all very stable. And the Alfa Romeo across the line gets a 14.946. And goes P8. Fantastic, these lap times. And Hazy, 14.213. The gap between P2 and P1 is 400ths of a second. That is, like, on the dot, 0. So 0.00.040. That is the gap between 1 and 2. Extremely close margins. Wow. Chimp in P11, the Aston Martin on a fast lap at the moment. See if he can try and find himself in a higher position than where he currently starts himself in. 2 minutes left on the clock, and he has been well and truly impeded there. I wonder if he might report that to the officials at the steward's office, but we won't talk more about that. That's more up to the driver's option. But yeah, well and truly impeded there on his lap time. What about the Mercedes? We have DRL Lancer currently on a lap time. Well, it was a lap time maybe, but he slowed back down and clearly going once again, potentially made a mistake, spin, kicked out the rear. We'll go on board with the Red Bull here. We'll also need to be aware of other drivers. Looks like an AlphaTauri will be planning to come across the line, but it looks like Windex Bottle Cap starting his lap. Hazy now coming back into the pit lane, clearly happy with his lap time. That's it for him. What about Chimp? Well, he's slowed down like we said before, made a mistake. Jono currently P13, he'll be looking for an opportunity. And Alfa Romeo of Chesney Reese going up the hill now. There's a McLaren, however. He's currently on an outlap. Windex Bottle Cap's currently going in the first sector. Hazy's now retired, clearly happy with his time. It's more just letting all these drivers finish off what they've started here, finishing up their outlaps with 50 seconds left on the clock. And yeah, it doesn't look like a single person is actually finished up their lap time, more just getting it started. So you know what, let's go on board with Chimp. We'll have to be aware of McLaren of Zinc here, and you know what, we actually will go on board with JSTM, not Zinc, sorry. So in the first sector, tries to get the maximum out of it, will now move up the hill, 500ths up on his time, and that is all he needs, ladies and gentlemen. 500ths, and he can take P1. So you know, this could be a fantastic lap to take on board with him. Breaking into the zone, just absolutely nailing every single corner down to the white line. Just needs to maximize it, needs to find any bit of grip that he can possibly think of finding and grab it with both hands. And it looks like with both hands on the steering wheel, he's a 10th up. Are we about to see a time to go into the 1:14.1s? That would be ridiculous. Honestly, I can't imagine it, but looks like we'll get to imagine it. Have to wait and see how this unfolds. JSTM into the final corner in the 108s on the exit of the corner. This is going to be good, ladies and gentlemen. And across the line, it's a 14 flat. Well, it's not even a 14.1, it's a 14 flat. 1:14.064. The Aston Martin of Gabby's now invalidated. You have more drivers across the line. Chimp P9, McLenny P10. Let's continue back up the field. You can see Windex 500ths down on his time. A Haas has hit the barrier. That's him done and dusted. Looked to be Dylan Ark mainly. No, it was his teammate Jono. What about Sir Nikolai and the Williams? He's currently on a fast lap. What can the British team set on the board? He's going to go all the way. It's a 14. 1:04.59. Very solid time from the Williams. Continue back down. You have Gabby currently on a fast lap, but unfortunately he did invalidate, like we said before, and Jono did hit the barrier, so there will be no more opportunities for him. So the only other man who could set a decent lap time on the board is Jonathan. Out of the final corner, what can he set? It's a 15.154. It's only P14, so with everything said and done, ladies and gentlemen, Jono finishing in P16. This time round, it's not Zinc, it's JSTM, 1:14 flat, and well and truly ahead of the rest of the field by 0.2 of a second, maybe just under a tenth, but still fantastic margins. And look at that PlayStation gaps. Sorry, I didn't mean to say PlayStation. I was looking at the Twitch chat and then I looked back over, so my words jumbled. What I meant to say is look at the gaps in F1. But JSTM, like I said before, on pole position. The McLaren really smashing it out by 1.5 tenths. It's already crazy enough to be in the 1:14s, but to have a gap of 1.5 tenths between these drivers to have these types of times, really, really good effort from them. In P2 is Charldinho in the Alpine with a 14.213, still an exceptional time from the Alpine. P3 in a McLaren sandwich for Charldinho is P3 of Zinc in the McLaren, like it should have been, a 1:14.408, 0.2 roughly off Charldinho. From there, it is all just redemption days for these drivers as they try and get the groove back into them. So, Wizzy Boy, someone beat me in the time. That guy stole my number. I started my lap on 70% ERS. I would have done that. Elsie Albo said I should have got P4. Interesting. And Ace Wizzy Boy says, Jay, just kidding, I ain't that fast. Feels like Wizzy Boy has stepped up a couple ego levels. I don't know the right word, but he's gained a small, very humble ego when it comes to Imola lap times, clearly. We'll have to wait and see once we get back to Formula 2 when we get to round 3 how he copes. But it's not about Formula 2 and it's not about round 3. It's about round 2 and it's about the main drivers here. It's about the top of the range. It's time for the quickest competitive drivers you can watch and witness. It's Formula 1. Formation lap's probably going to be off, so we're going to get straight into it. And obviously you have your race engineers and you have your pit crew all stretched and ready. The drivers are stretched and ready. They have their strategy set and prepared. They're lined up on the grid for one final time worth of racing. Pilata says it's always off. Yeah, I know. But we hope, right? We hope. Anyway, the crowd waving their hands around in excitement, celebrating the team of Ferrari and Alfa Romeo and Alfa Tauri. Italian teams surrounded in an Italian track, but we wait patiently for players and drivers to be ready for one final time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. The lights go out and it's pedal to the metal for the Italian Grand Prix here in Imola, and it's actually a bit of a bad getaway. A lot of wheel spin from JSTM means that Charldinho is already wheel to wheel with him in P2. Can he get the move done going around the outside? No, he has to back out of it. Continuing further down, the teammate to JSTM has now gone into the gravel, clearly hit from the side pod. You have more people down there. Marinov stopped, and you can also see Minty Hazard is stopped. Doesn't look like too much debris, but chaos already unfolding in the first couple of corners. That's Imola for you, ladies and gentlemen, and have a look at the drivers swarming around each other. Looks like Joshy's now taken AI form, and have a look at them. All swarming into one big group, all looking for the opportunity to make a move stick. Looks like the Mercedes of Albo's going to try and make one, and does, up to P12, already once again alongside with his teammate. Tessa currently sees himself in P11. Doesn't look like he'll get the opportunity to make a move, but he does get a bit more momentum than that Ferrari. Have a look how many drivers are currently speeding through the straight. Can't seem to get anything done, however, for Tessa. Has to just wait that little bit longer. Might be able to do it now, though. He's going to get a lot more momentum, plus slipstream, plus ERS. Can the Mercedes do it on the outside line, which switches quickly over to the inside if he can get it done? And actually the Ferrari's just going to spin him. Has to reset back to track, which will actually go towards a penalty because you are not supposed to reset there. But have a look at this. You now have Chesney, Reese and Jonathan also down in those previous lower positions. what is happening at the moment. A lot of messy driving would be the right word, I think, to put it. The Alpine and Red Bull of Joshi and Marinov currently fighting away with each other. This is lap 2 of 32, and fighting is already at an all-time high, ladies and gentlemen, and the McLaren of Zinc is just going to zoom right past him. Obviously, like we saw before on lap 1, sped into the gravel at turn 1 and turn 2 chicane, but he's already fighting his way up to P15, so he has to be happy with that, at least for the time being. Marinov currently P14, he's looking to try and get a switchback. Can he get it done? Yes, he can. Fantastic driving from the Red Bull. Zinc P14 for the time being. Can he get the momentum to stay ahead of the AlphaTauri? And yes, he can. The gaps are so small between each other, though. Have a look, more momentum from the McLaren, now less than a tenth, 700s going into the next corner, has to back out of it. The Red Bull runs wide trying to defend, and Windex bottle cap down to P10. We saw what great lap time he had, and now all that great work has already been shoved down the window. Unfortunate for the AlphaTauri. Sees himself using number 7, going through down in elevation, obviously out of the exit of the chicane where you seem to gain all that momentum, but looks like everything is slowly but surely starting to calm down. We can see that by the fact that JSTM doesn't want to see it calm down. 117.708, and well and truly ahead of the rest of the field. Hazy P2 didn't have the pace to take pole, but he is at least staying where he started, and that's the same for JSTM, so I'm sure being able to pull away from the rest of the field is a big relief for these drivers. Aston Martin have had quite a race at the beginning of this, already P4 and P5 consecutively for these drivers. Looks like Chimp's going to get a very good exit out of the corner compared to Gabby, but looks like it's going to equal back out by the exit of the elevated hairpin. Further down the grid, you can still see a lot of battling happening at the moment. Let's move further up. We can still see a gap between 0.3 of a second between DRL Lancer and Sir Nikolai. Doesn't look like we'll get the opportunity to see anything too close yet, but you know what we can see quite close, and right now at this very second is a potential move going into the chicane. Looks like Chimp's gonna back out of it, but then thought about maybe doing it, but at the end of the day did actually just back out of it anyway. Moving back up, you still have Gabby in P4, and Dylan Ark has done fantastic to stay in a quite high position. I think he did start P3, but the Hat's doing everything he possibly can to stay in that position and gather himself a podium at the least. Lap 4 of 32 already complete, ladies and gentlemen, and Gabby still in P4, plus DRS now active, has already been 3 laps passed and done. Williams of Sir Nikolai looking for an opportunity against the English team. It's England versus England when it comes to constructors, but right now it's looking like England versus America, which we've seen time and time again actually, but Gabby just can't seem to get the momentum, but now does out of the exit of Villeneuve chicane. Have a look at the Haas already flashing from the rear of the car, showing an indication of no ERS left in the tank, and looks like the Haas is going to speed away, just getting on throttle that split second earlier compared to the Aston Martin, but for now just a bit more of a waiting game until the Aston Martin potentially looks to try and plot for a move. Hazy still in 1 second of a gap to the McLaren, so that's obviously beneficial towards the Alpine, especially if he can start pressuring the McLaren, see if he can try and wear down the McLaren's tyres and give the Alpine a much bigger opportunity. K1 in the AlphaTauri, he currently sees himself in P17, picked up a 3-second time penalty. Same as Wave Dre in P20, the Williams and AlphaTauri not having the races they really want at the moment. Continuing back up, you can see a bit of a fight starting to occur here between Marinov and Minty Hazza in the Red Bull and Alfa Romeo. Can the Red Bull get close enough to get the move done? Just doesn't look like he'll be close enough anyway. Once again, moving closer up to the front of the field, you have Jono P12. He's going to get a really nice slipstream here on the AlphaTauri of Windex bottle cap. He's going to get DRS plus ERS. It's more just following these drivers all the way through. Can he get it done? Yeah, he can. He's already flown by. By the time they reach the chicane, bit of rear contact, sees Windex bottle cap just lose his rear a little bit, but Jono cruising through up to P11 because of some first round incidents. It's first lap incidents, sorry. It's why he currently sees himself in P11, but still has to be happy with the performance he's currently put in with only 5 laps done. 3-second time penalty for Jonathan C. He's currently placed himself in P19. It looks like a lot of the back runners at the moment have the penalties acquired against against their name, clearly because of incidents and clearly because of other drivers, or maybe just singular faults on their own. Speaking of, P7 of DRL Lancer more in the midfield here, just unfortunately making that mistake of going over the white line, and it's almost dropping like flies now. Marinov in the Red Bull now picks up a 3-second time penalty. Maybe that's about pressure, maybe it's just about trying to keep competitive, but whatever the case is, it's not really working out for a lot of these drivers. Using number 13 on the Aston Martin, that's my number, chimp, but we won't talk about it. Anyway, the Williams of Sir Nikolai trying to get a slipstream necessary to try and get past the Haas of Dylan Ark. Can Dylan Ark get it done? Well, the Haas is flashing away with ERS, so he won't be able to defend against the Williams, yet the Williams will be able to cruise by on the outside line, and he's even closer to the podium positions where Gabby now sees himself. Dylan Ark is continuing to lose more and more positions as this race continues to unfold. I'm sorry, I actually haven't had many telemetry options on the board for you. And there's a driver really losing his rear there. It's the Ferrari of Mick Lenny, now finding a bit more grip with himself again, just looking for a switchback, won't even get it done. Down to P10 goes the Scuderia, and Minty Hazza has hit the barrier on the exit of the Villeneuve chicane, and I'm wondering if that might be a safety car, at least a virtual safety car. It is where drivers can make contact, but no, nothing actually unfolding there. So for now, everything actually calms down on that side of the race, and yeah, everything goes back to green flag running. How's it going up here though? Have a look at the fighting, going bumping after bumping, pretty much bumper cars with ghosting on. Obviously that's going to allow for avoidance of damage against both cars, but the two British teams of Red Bull and Aston Martin fighting away with a lot of force. Either way, moving back up the field. Looks like the front of the field has really started to calm down a bit more, even with Alpine getting that constant slipstream. Just looks like it's more about feeding it towards the Alpine, letting him get that gap against Gabby, but then also not get the move done on McLaren, just allow him to keep his position, at least for the first stint. The Williams of Sir Nikolai's had a fantastic race so far though, made multiple positions, sees himself in P4, and just like Gabby, who's made multiple positions, it looks like he'll finally lose his streak of position gains, more like losing a position out, because this I can't speak. The Williams looks to be on the offense against the Aston Martin. Move back down, see if we can find any more entertaining fighting happening at the moment. Just having a close look at gaps. Something I can see is that Chimp is 2/10 off the Red Bull at the moment. He's looking for an opportunity. All drivers are on 6-lap old compounds, apart from Wave, who is on 3-lap old compounds. Minty, okay, have a look at that. The Aston Martin of Chimp has spun DRL Lancer in the Red Bull. Let's go to him, see how he's doing. Well, he's finally get going again, but he's going to move down to P11, potentially P12, because Zink's going to carry more momentum out of the exit of the chicane. To be fair, DRL Lancer didn't even really get an exit, and bit of early braking there from the Red Bull. Looks to be just maybe a bit of a spot of lag, desync potentially, but everything seems to have cooled itself out once again. The Mercedes of Illyrian P7 for the time being. DRS well and truly open, but just not close enough to get a move done, but maybe can get a move done in the next couple of laps if he can continue to decrease the size of that gap. And to be fair, let's have a quick look at the positions at the moment, because have a look at this. Albo started P7. Albo started P19 if we consider, yeah, so Illyrian or Albo, however you may say his name, started P19, he's now P7, he's gained 12 positions. Tessa actually started P20, now he's P8, so both Mercedes actually gaining quite significantly here, both following each other very closely and gaining just how they need to, but they put themselves in a very, very solid position for both drivers at the moment. Could be setting themselves very nicely for a much later strategy later on. Dylan Ark in the Haas currently sees himself in P5 with a 3-second time penalty. Once again puts him on the further back foot here. Zink's actually missed out very much here. He didn't take pole, but he did start P3 because it was a McLaren sandwich. He's now down to P12, lost 9 positions out from it. He's 2/10 off the Red Bull of DRL Lancer because of the fact that DRL Lancer did spin. Bit of kick of the rear there from the McLaren, but looks to be stabilizing it all as we continue on to lap 10 of 32 now. At least I think so, but I think it's lap 9 of 32, and those drivers were just starting lap 9 now. Anyway, JSTM has actually lost a significant amount of time out to the Alpine. Maybe all that pushing has actually seen a bit more wear on the tyres. Have to wait and see. We'll go back to the tyres now. You can see 8 laps on both the hards and mediums. Those hards will last longer. You actually have a brave soul with the tyre degradation on soft compounds. That's an interesting strategy on the Haas's side of things. Moving back down, we have another driver with a penalty against his name. You also have Windex Bottle Cap who has a penalty. Really, it's been a bit of a slow race for AlphaTauri. He's down in P12, and he's most likely lost a couple of positions. I swear he started higher, and yes, he has. He's lost 7 positions. Started much higher, P5 for the AlphaTauri, and that's where he finds himself. Really unlucky there for the AlphaTauri. Looks like, oh wow, have a look at this. JSTM and Charldinho both get penalties up in front, so now, because of the gap, they actually won't be affected from one another, but, still shows you how tight that white line and track limits are. Even with someone like Gabby who's 7.3 seconds off, it's almost like you need to cut track limits if you want to create that gap, and though you may get a penalty, you end up actually seeing a bit more of a reward at the end of it. Gabby now overtaken by Sir Nikolai going into turn 1. A fantastic move by the Williams. We'll keep going on board here because they seem to be really starting to up the battle here, up the tempo with these two drivers, and have a look at the momentum that the Aston Martin has found through these couple of corners through Villeneuve chicane. On the inside line, he can squeeze him out of position, does lose his rear a little bit, and using the outside line plus extra grip, but more ERS being used by Gabby, it means that Gabby in the Aston Martin is back up to the podium position. Still a very solid job from the Aston Martin. Wave Dre with a 3-second time penalty. Also looked like Jono, but it wasn't. Must have been Dylan Arco who must have picked up another, because it did look like a Haas. Might be wrong though, but from what I saw, that is what I have been able to witness. Mick Lenny's actually had quite a quiet race here. If we have a look at the position changes, he actually done well. He's up 2 positions from where he started in P11. But in terms of actually making move and making movement overall, trying to close the gap, it's been a bit stale from the Scuderia's garage. But he'll be happy with that either way by gaining a couple of positions from where he started. Tezza P8 just behind his teammate of Albo, and the Mercedes have been all over these drivers for a couple of laps. I'm wondering if they're finally going to get the opportunity they need to finally get past them. DRS fully active on Albo, just looking for the opportunity, goes into the braking zone, but cannot get it done. Much more momentum out of the exit of the first and second corner chicane though, so I'm wondering, will the Mercedes be able to get it done here? Will tap the brakes going into the 50, carry it through into the next couple of corners, does go wide on the white line, but no penalty against Albo's name. Oh, bit of contact, sends it a bit late, just braking as late as he possibly can, sees contact made, but it wouldn't be significant enough for damage or a significant spin, so I'm sure it'll be left as an NFA and move on from that incident. Chimp just up ahead, the Aston Martin obviously defending off Albo, really just trying to do his best. I'm sure using the DRS on the Haas's of Dylan Arc will be a much more significant use and be quite beneficial for the Aston Martin, who's trying their absolute best to try and stay ahead of some raging Mercedes in carbon fiber black and a nice Petronas blue, all trying to fight as hard as they possibly can to try and get past Chimp. But like I said before, Chimp using the DRS of the Haas of Dylan Arc towards his own advantage. Once again though, the top 3 is looking very similar. Hazy in P2, it looks like he was gaining in the beginning, but looks like he's settled down a bit more. Sir Nikolai is actually an AI. Actually no, that's just a blue flag, because Sir Nikolai is actually 8.3 seconds off the Alpine of Charldinho. Have a look at this, some position changes here. It looks like DRL Lancer has come into the pit lane, so has Mick Lenny. Sees Zinc up to P11. Already starting to see some very early pit stops looking for the undercut strategy. Honestly, it would be a very good time to come into the pit lane, especially in division racing and especially in league racing. Tires don't last as long because it's all about pushing as hard as you can 24/7, and in a situation where you need to push as hard as you can and you know pretty much forces your tires into submission, it just means that a lot of the time people need to box a lot earlier than what you'd normally see in real life, because you know, equal performance, different tire margins, you know, different pace, different engine noises, everything's different when it comes to equal performance. It's about bringing the level of performance back to an equal sum and allowing anyone to win, but it also means that every single part of a strategy does change up. Anyway, Chesney Riz with a 3-second time penalty against his name. Currently sees himself in P12, but he's surrounded by 2 drivers along behind him and along in front of him, all with penalties as well. Either way, McClenny P16 for the time being. Once again, we go to the big extravaganza of cars up ahead. Looks like Sir Nikolai is once again, for the who knows how many times, has now been overtaken by the Aston Martin of Gabby, while the Williams of Sir Nikolai looking for an opportunity. Both drivers do not have penalties against their name, but both drivers are not close enough to make any opportunity against into higher podium positions, because Charldinho and JSTM are, well, 9.8, well, over 10 seconds if you include Charldinho's gap to the lead of the race. But either way, this could be a bit more of an exciting one at the moment. They've gone back and forth for a couple of laps now. Windex bottle cap with another 3-second time penalty. We may as well go to penalties real quick, see how everything's unfolding. I have JSTM with a 3-second time penalty, followed by Charldinho with the same length, same by Dylan Ark. Windex bottle cap with a 6-second time penalty, 3 seconds from P11, 12 and 13, another 6 seconds for K1, 5 seconds for Jesus, I am really struggling with names today. Mick Lenny in P15. P6 is DRL Lancer. P9, sorry, P6. 6 seconds is DRL Lancer. 9 seconds is Marinov, and 6 seconds is Wave Dre. So yeah, interesting stuff. Dylan Ark now comes into the pit lane, and this is all to be expected now, but he's actually going to be on the back foot compared to the people who did undercut. So we may as well go to one of those people. Obviously here, Mick Lenny, 1 lap old, new tires, maybe just boxing a tad too early, maybe gone to an incident as well. That could have been another big factor. But yeah, the Ferrari will have no issue, well, the Ferrari will have issues getting by, but the Alfa Romeo will have no issues against the Ferrari undercutting him. And for now, it is, well, a bad undercut strategy. Maybe should have just waited a couple more laps before doing something like that. And honestly, with the back of the grid, it's better to just go long anyway. Try and see if you can maximize the most of positions and just push as hard as you can. You know, you lose positions because other people have undercut. At least you tried your best, right? Anyway, Jono and P9, the Haas just looking to try and make a move or two on Windex bottle cap. And Windex bottle cap, speaking of the man who was going to be trying overtaken by Jono, has been overtaken by Jono, he's hit the barrier. I'm surprised he's not out of this race. That was quite a fair whack into the barrier. That's fair, just straight padding and concrete. Either way, the AlphaTauri has survived it somehow, some way. And have a look how, I mean, wow. The fact that it's been, what, 1/10 of a second this entire time. Now the Mercedes comes in. It makes sense for the hard runners to stay out. I'm surprised. I've actually seen a couple hard runners actually come in onto new mediums, but there's no real point to. You may as well stay out on the hard compounds, and if you are on the mediums, then you're going to switch to the hards and then go long. You know, those hards can really last long. It's kind of what these Pirellis are made to do. They're made to last long on these stints. They're made to have longer laps put into them. Made to have a bit more degradation onto them because they're made to last. They're made to be durable. They're made to still have a similar competitiveness and similar lap times by the time they do come into the pit lane. That's the whole point of it. But yeah, for now, all the medium runners now switching on to the hard compounds. I'm just wondering, was starting on the medium such a bright idea? Because it just seems like the overcut is benefiting a bit more. We'll have to wait and see how grip levels improve, because to be fair, these guys will have the undercut, because you're obviously, by boxing ahead of the other drivers who have not boxed, you immediately put yourself on an undercut strategy. So if it does all play out well, then we could see some significant position changes. But what we should be focusing on is, well, P6, JSTM. He is going to be the first person to undercut anyone that does come into the pit lane. So speaking of, one of the Mercedes does, that's Tessa. So does Gabby and the Aston Martin. The other two still stay out for the time being. Charldinho clearly knowing that he needs to stay out if he wants that opportunity to stay ahead of the rest of the field. Anyway, the McLaren of JSTM will now get a very good slipstream. No DRS though on the Haas of Jono, but he's going to use whatever raw tow from the wind tunnel Haas that they're providing to get by. Looks like some type of penalty against the driver. Didn't get a good enough look to see who, but for now that is how that's unfolded. You can see will to will between these drivers right here, but looks like McLenny using the DRS towards his advantage. That carbon fiber rear wing on the back of that Scuderia Ferrari towards his advantage. Sees himself up to P8 and Chimp down to P9. It looks so good at the beginning of this race, but we'll have to wait and see how it unfolds for the Aston Martins, because they did just freshly come into the pit lane, and with what is now only 3, 4, 5 drivers on 15 lap old compounds. You have Joshy, Jonathan, Jono, Illyrian and now Charldinho. It's going to be an interesting one, because have a look at JSTM. He's on fresh new compounds. He's already managed to get past Jono, and I'm sure he's going to be on the attack, because right now he's 24 seconds off the lead of the race. Charldinho has got a penalty against his name. He's going to keep staying out. He knows those hard compounds can last long, but for how much longer? Because think about it, JSTM is on fresh new hard compounds. Just gonna give him that edge against him. It goes two ways though, because when you really consider it, these drivers who are boxing earlier and are going for an undercut, they'll end up being undercut themselves, because these hard runners that started on hards will end up boxing later. So in the beginning, you know, there'll be less grip compared to the hard runners that boxed earlier, and so they'll get past. But then the drivers who box later will see much later grip down the line and be able to re-undercut, or at least have more grip to regain those positions. Anyway, that's how I'm seeing it. That's how I'm kind of overviewing the strategy from it all. You know, you can see benefits from both sides of it, but it really depends how it all unfolds. DRL Lancer with another penalty against his name, the Red Bull, who was a previous Mercedes driver when he won his world championship, when he won a constructors championship with Naismith. Now sees himself P11, and maybe Red Bull wasn't the right move. He's just not delivering compared to one of the Mercedes drivers. Those 16-lap-old compounds, I'd expect Albo to come back in, but really staying out, really. I mean, it's a brave strategy from Albo. I mean, if he wants to go out long, it's the best tyre to do it on, and I'm sure fuel is never going to be an issue, because obviously kind of eliminated fuel strategy ever since the regulations changed in 2010. Either way, that's JSTM getting a perfect undercut. What Hazy now will come out in P3 on medium compounds with a 2.5 second gap. This could be quite beneficial towards the Alpine. Instead, just staying out and using the most grip out of those hard compounds could be a big benefit for the Alpine, like I just said. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that unfolds in the next 10-12 laps. Anyway, moving on. Either way, Tessa P8 right now, just looking for it, can't seem to get it done, but looks like he's now going to get the move done. And it looks like Chimp really struggling on the exit there. Downshift way too early, just way too late, sorry, just braking under pressure always can get drivers, and it has on this occasion. Chimp isn't too afraid though, because he looks like he's going to try and come back at him, but can't get it done. Looks like Jonathan C's made a mistake. He's gone into the gravel just out of Villeneuve chicane, potentially broke too late, unlike Chimp, who was at least able to save it. But who's not able to save it is the Scuderia. K1's finally come into the pit lane. Maybe not the correct strategy for his current position, but he did start a bit higher than where he currently stands, so we'll have to wait and see in the next couple of laps if he can try and gain any time back from where he currently stands in P19. Albo is P1, but he's got an 8-second gap to JSTM, and it's not going to last very long, because those 4-lap-old hard compounds, which is going to be fresh on grip and very competitive, I'm sure will be right up against the wall with Albo in the next couple of laps. That is, unless the Mercedes does finally decide to come into the pit lane. Hazy, P3, but he's also signed a game on JSTM, because think about it. 1-lap-old medium compounds compared to 4-lap-old hard compounds, they're also just more pressure. There's more tire pressure in harder compounds, giving its name for harder in it, right? It's a hard compound because it's a harder tire pressure. There is more air in the tire, giving the reason why it's called a hard tire, right? In a medium, there's less tire pressure, right? It's medium tire. You get my point, right? Meaning, just overall, because of more grip, because it's newer tires, because there's less tire pressure and there's less air in the tires, it just allows for a bit more, I don't know what it is, just traction. It's less stiff on the tires, you know? It allows itself to be a bit more bouncy and movie. I don't know, I'm gonna say movie, but Hazy definitely using those new tires like I explained it to his advantage will get ERS plus DRS towards his advantage, and it's a 1:16.2, so very solid lap time from the Alpine as he moves himself up to P2, well and truly ahead of JSTM now, and already ahead of where he started, because actually Hazy did start P2, but maybe this was a bad strategy call on JSTM's side. I mean, it might benefit him in the very late long run, maybe lap 30, lap 31, because of the fact that those mediums will die out. 1:16.854 for Jono in the Haas, currently sees himself in P12. Yellow flag looked to be a mistake, but must have fixed up whatever mistake was there. Jono is actually right behind a McLaren at the moment, Zinc at the moment, but 2/10 is the gap separating them, and Zink's actually having quite a different race than what he had in Australia. The driver ahead 5.8 seconds. He might not even score points today, and with Jono P12 looking for an opportunity against him, could become way less of a chance for him to score even a single point. Wave Dre in the Williams currently sees himself in P18 with a 3-second time penalty against his name once again. I don't know, a lot of people don't seem to like it, but I've always been a big fan of the style of the Williams steering wheel. It's very different. It's personal. It's I don't know. And yeah, personal. It's creative. It's different from all the other teams. You know, you look at AlphaTauri, then Mercedes. They're just that rectangular shape. It's like embedded into all Formula One teams' heads. But with this, it's very much the same. Anyway, Sir Nikolai in P5 looking for a bit more momentum against Dylan Arks. Currently, the gap is 0.3 of a second. You can also see on the back of that Haas that rear light is flashing away. So maybe the Williams can get the opportunity to try and make a move stick. The Aston Martin of Gabby just looking to try and defend off of Tessa here. The Aston Martin, Gabby's the Aston Martin, but the Mercedes of Tessa just trying to be as patient as possible with this, because he knows being on the same lap of compound can be a long game. It's more just about who wears them down quicker than the other. Anyway, it looks like the gap between Sir Nikolai and the Williams and Dylan Ark is really starting to close down now. What can the Williams do? It looks like he was looking for a move, just swerved left and right, but the gate shut on him very quickly, so we'll have to wait just that little bit more before making a move. Anyway, our boat finally does come into the pit lane, and when he does, he picks up a 5-second time penalty, joining the rest of the grid who does currently have one, and only a fair few, actually, to give you an exact number. Only 4 drivers in this race now don't have a penalty against their name, so close margins indeed. And what we can say is that the Mercedes of Tessa will finally take the opportunity to make a move to get into a higher position than what they were trying to look for a couple of laps ago. And so P5 is now secured for the Mercedes. Once again, you look at just that little bit higher. Dylan Ark and Sir Nikolai currently fighting away for the podium in P3. P4 obviously secured by the Haas of Dylan Ark. But we'll have to wait and see just how that unfolds, because Dylan Ark does have 1 lap older tyres, and you might think that isn't significant enough, and you know what, you might be right, but at the same time, if someone is so close on pace, 1 lap older tyres can be the difference between winning and coming second. Either way, this is your top 5 for the time being. Really, it's really started to slow down this race, and blue flags being moved out of the way for the drivers up in front. But it's the odd battle, just trying to manage your gaps, manage the strategy, manage the countless time penalties against people's names. But yeah, just trying to do the best they possibly can, and yeah, it's been very even. I think that's the right word to say. Anyway, JSTM currently in P2. That looks like a driver who's about to be on the back foot, because blue flag will be waved. 1.1 seconds, so that's the Alpine. And the Alpine hasn't come into the pit lane. I thought that was a driver who was on the pit lane, but just taking the pit lane line. So it's actually really started to close down between them, and more contact being made between Sir Nikolai and Tessa in the Mercedes. Gabby's going to take the opportunity to get by. Sir Nikolai, however, will see the cop of it right on the chin. It's not really going to feel that nice, and down to P7 goes the British team of Williams. Unfortunate for Sir Nikolai, who was having quite a good race, and too much tyre temp means he's going to lose a down plate, or an end plate, sorry, but seems to actually be okay still. Either way, Sir Nikolai, I'm sure, is going to be very disappointed with where he currently stands, and I'm sure will be looking for some type of redemption very soon. Anyway, once again, it's very cool, very calm at the moment here in Imola. Things have really started to settle down, and it's more just trying to keep it all together. Anyway, JSTM still in P2, but looks like those hard compounds are really starting to come into their element. I remember a lap ago I was wondering who that Alpine was. I thought he was coming out of the pit lane. I thought it was a blue flag because he was taking the pit lane line, but nope, it was Hazy. It was Charldinho, however you may say his name. It was it's just the gap really starting to close in between the top two at the moment. Alpha Tauri seem to have a stopped car on track. It's not K1, it is Windex bottle cap. Some type of spin out of the exit of the chicane. Maybe too much curb usage. It would be the most explanatory option. But for now, either way, he's down to P14. And yeah, just really not having... A lot of these drivers aren't really having the race they wanted. What I can say is Hazy is still in P2. And because P3 is 13 seconds off the clock, it is still going to be Hazy who would win this race if he ends up staying where he currently sits. But obviously anything can happen in 8 laps of action. So have to wait and see how that unfolds, really. So it's a lot of waiting, it's a lot of patience when it comes to this side of things, because it's when things switch from racing and becomes more about, well, strategy. It becomes more about just managing your tires, managing your fuel, staying competitive, but not wasting everything on that final couple of laps when it isn't even the final couple of laps. What I can say is that Jono is finding the gain on Zinc, but it seems to be gain and losing. It really depends on the corner that they're at, but looks like the Haas in P11 just has to wait a bit longer before anything does eventually occur between them. What I can say is that Albon has actually done quite well here. He has got a 5-second penalty against his name, but if he can get past his teammate here, he's going to get DRS, plus the use of ERS. They're going to go wheel to wheel. What a shot there that I'm sure some photographers out on the track will be taking. But yeah, closing the DRS now, going into the braking zone, and it is pretty much a Mercedes switch around with Albo up to P6. This is actually pretty beneficial because Tessa could be the reason that could see where Albo actually finishes. If Tessa can try and create a bigger gap between him and Mick Lenny in P8, which might not even be necessary at the moment, because look at that. 1 second, that's 5.7 seconds if Illyrian was to drop down to McLenny. Remember, the gap, the penalty is only 5 seconds, so right now, that is a gap necessary for Illyrian to only lose 1 position, fall down to P7. It'd still be a very solid finish for Mercedes at the end of the day, because like I said before, by Tessa increasing that gap between McLenny and himself, it's just going to allow Albo to only miss out on a single position and still get maximum points for constructors that they could possibly score at Mercedes. Chimp not that far behind Gabby. I think they'll be managing their gaps anyway, just like Mercedes, just trying to score the most out of constructors points and just trying to really be on top of things. They currently lead the constructors championship, Aston Martin, and they're doing a very fine job being where they currently stand. I'm sure they're having good communication with them themselves, and yeah, I'm sure they're in a party. They're good friends, and they've been getting along, and that's what you need with a teamwork, a partnership in an F1 team within F1 itself here in House of Racing. So yeah, no big surprises to see them cooperating and working so well with one another. Just yeah, good friends, really working as hard as they can with each other anyway. The Mercedes of Illyrian sees himself in P6. Obviously, he has got a 5-second penalty, but I don't think behind is of a big issue. And to be fair, he is pulling away from his teammate. If Tessa is over 5 seconds, then Albo will actually manage P6. I mean, it can become even more if he can get 5 seconds on Chimp as well, but I expect that to be too late. Also just seems like in the past couple of races, well, Chimp's just going to let him by, and you know what? I know exactly what he's doing, and this is a very smart decision from Aston Martin. It's time for DRS chicken, everyone. Warmed and cooked and ready, it is time for a hot meal as your starter, but it looks like it's not worked out very well. 9/10 is the gap. He will get DRS, but it is definitely not going to be as effective as the Aston Martin wanted, and Albo will definitely take the opportunity to try and pull away out of DRS, but the Aston Martin, I'm sure, will use all of his ERS up and all of that DRS that is available to him to try and stick with him either way. But just looks like that Aston Martin is really uncomfortable with the way the car is sitting. The rear is constantly kicking out. The tires seem to really start to degrade now. It is 12-lap-old tires, and you have to be wondering how JSTM is feeling, you know? I mean, look at him. He was just on the grass. Now his tires are going to feel dirty as well. and Hazy 4 seconds ahead of the rest of the field at the moment, and obviously 15 seconds is Dylan Ark. And because Gabby's also got a penalty, it won't even really matter how Dylan Ark finishes this. If he can finish ahead of Gabby in the Aston Martin, I'm sure we'll be wanting to hunt down that Haas to try and score that final podium position. Looks like a Williams has actually got a yellow flag. We'll actually quickly swap to him, see what's happened there. It is Wave Dre, or maybe the Alfa Romeo just behind him, but, sorry, the Ferrari, who is Jonathan, but whoever it was, a blue flag was indicated just there. Yellow flag, sorry, but probably a blue flag as well. But yeah. This is where it stands, everyone. This is the part of the race that where we pretty much just talk about strategy and gaps and try and maximize the most out of it. Windex bottle cap with a 3-second time penalty in the AlphaTauri. I'm sure he'll be a bit disappointed in that, but not as disappointed as K1, the teammate to Windex bottle cap. DRL Lance is coming into the pit lane. I wonder if he's going on to soft compounds, and no, he's retiring. He's done. He's had enough of the race, and yeah, he wants no more. I'm surprised. He could have stolen away fastest lap, but I guess, yeah, not happy with how it went, and finished up how he didn't really want to, but unfortunate for the Red Bull, really. But yeah, this is where we currently stand. Tessa with 0.4 of a gap behind Chimp. Looks like that gap has increased by a small amount. Like I said before, Albo now getting in the way between the Aston Martin and the Mercedes. And like we said before, Gabby now 1.4 seconds off Dylan Ark. If Gabby can get by, I'm sure the penalties are quite similar. I'll have a quick look now on the other side. So yeah, Gabby with a 6-second time penalty though, so he'd actually need to get past Dylan Ark and then make a 3-second gap if he wanted to finish ahead of Dylan Ark and get that podium position. I'm sure that's not discouraging Gabby either way, because even with 6 seconds he can still try and gather as many points as physically possible. And with Albo in his current position, he'll unfortunately not be close enough to really benefit from this. I mean, actually think about it. Gabby with a 6-second time penalty, Illyrian with a 5-second time penalty. If Illyrian can get close enough where it's a 1 second or less gap, then he'll actually get ahead of Gabby, but they might lose positions equally. Either way, once again, it's all just gaps and managing tires from this point on, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's boring, it's dull, and I might be repeating myself a lot, but unfortunately, this is the long game that comes with Formula One racing. It's the strategy, it's the long-term racing, and for me, I find it quite entertaining because I get to talk about strategy, I get to talk about tire life, I get to talk about the odd battle that does occur, and, you know, I get to talk about, you know, who's got more pace, who doesn't. But it's just some people I know want the action constantly. And, you know, as a commentator, it is better to have constant action because there's more to talk about. There's less repeating of yourself. But, you know, this type of stuff does happen. It happens in every Grand Prix that has ever occurred. And, yeah, once again, it's just very close margins, but then also very distant margins when you look at people like Dylan Ark to JSTM. But Gabby now 1.1 seconds off Dylan Ark at the moment, with Albo also all over the back of him. No ERS with the Mercedes, but looks like he's just... I mean, I have to give a round of applause to Albo at the moment. I mean, what a race he's really had. The Mercedes from, what was it again, P18? Position change. So P19 is where Illyrian started. He started P19, and the Mercedes is in P4. Yes, he has a penalty against his name, but really that was kind of out of his control. He just broke a little too late going into the pit lane, picked up a pit lane penalty. If that wasn't the case, and, you know, obviously he's still going to carry similar pace to what he has now, this would be a very much legitimate P4 position. And it would have been very well earned for the Mercedes. So you have to give a round of applause to Albo, who has really put in the effort for this Grand Prix and shown what he has in his inventory, what he has with that Mercedes alongside. And his teammates really done well here as well. 14 positions gained for Tessa, 15 for Albo. It has been a very, very good day for Mercedes overall. Anyway, we'll go back to the tyres as before. But yeah, have a look at this. We were praising Albo, and it's about to become another position to his name. 16 positions gained in this Grand Prix, and he goes from P19 to P3. Wow. really it's just a work of art when you drive like that, when you are able to push it to the limits of every single white line, and the AlphaTauri of what would most likely be K1 being a blue flag to the front runners. But yeah, Albo now up to P3. He has got a 5-second time penalty, so it won't really serve him well, but we'll actually have a quick look at the other penalties, because have a look at this. If Albo has 5 seconds against his name and Dylan has 3, then all Albo needs to do is get 2 seconds worth of a gap, and Dylan Ark won't be able to get that position back. Right now, Dylan will still get the penalty, and because it's penultimate lap, it's actually going to look very good for Dylan Ark to get it back. Gabby in P5 as well, with 1 second. That's 1.8, 1.9, 2 seconds around that gap when you combine both gaps together, and because it's 5 seconds, it really just won't benefit Albo enough. So I don't think Albo will get a podium here today, but I think he will end up getting P5, and I think from where he started at P19 to gather 14 positions is something magical. But you know what else was magical today? You know what was almost fading into the distance because he had just such a clean race? A driver who kept it clean through it all. A driver who put it all out on the line and saw only good results come to him. A man who blue flagged multiple drivers. A man with the pace necessary to win a race. Win 2 races. Because he won in Australia. And he's going to see the checkered flag in first here in Imola. It's Hazy. It's Charldinho. It's your championship leader. With only a 3-second time penalty against his name. This is how it's going to end, ladies and gentlemen. So, what a race it's been from the Alpine. And what a race it's going to conclude to. Because it has been simply lovely from the Alpine Garage. Because he won in Australia. He's going to win in Imola. It's 2 Grand Prix in a row. And he's going to extend his championship lead. He wins the Italian Grand Prix. And it is Hazy once again on top. JSTM comes home in P2 from what was pole. And unfortunately missing out on that position because of that wheel spin on first lap. But it just looked like Hazy had so much more potential anyway. Looks like Albo is actually going to manage a podium here, and the Mercedes has actually done a very good job here. 0.8 of a second separated them, but it is the Mercedes of Albo who ends up actually finishing off the podium. P4 is Dylan Ark in the Haas, P5 is Tessa in the Mercedes, and round of applause to the Mercedes team. P19 to P3, that's 16 positions gained for Albo. That's your podium done and dusted. That's your Mercedes finishes done. Aston Martin, I'm sure, will be very happy with their finishes. I'm sure Chimp will be hoping for a bit more out of it, but no real complaints, I'm sure. Fantastic driving. Really good. And yeah, race done. Once again, it's 2 race wins now towards Hazy's name, and it's really well deserved because that Alpine has been driving outstandingly, using whatever magical force to fly above. He flew in the race as well, and maybe that's why he won, using that magical force. But he will raise, or she using the character, but he raising that trophy high and mighty, and will now spray the champagne all over the other drivers who will stand on the podium, being Albo, being JSTM. 3 drivers who deserve a podium, and 3 drivers who will get to see the podium, who will spray the champagne, and who will be very happy with their final results. It was a penalty-enthused race. It was a penalty-enthused race, but however it may have gone, it's how it's went. And yeah, Hazy, I'm sure, will be over the moon to pick up another win against his name, and it means he will extend his championship lead. JSTM P2 and Illyrian P3. We'll go to the race director real quick. You can see here, here's your driver incidents. Have a quick look. There you go. Incidents. If it will load, doesn't look like it will. Here's the pit stops, everyone. There you go. Incidents doesn't want to load. Alright, there you go. But yeah, another great victory for Hazy in the Alpine, and another good race for the McLaren team, and for the Aston Martin team, and for the Mercedes team, with Albo getting P3. Thank you all for watching. It's been maybe a bit more on a calm commentary stream. Hopefully it's not been too much of a bother for you boys. Thank you all for watching. I got a dip though, but cheers and goodbye.